What's going on, y'all? Today, we are going to define tonality. And then we are going to take a high level look at the 7 skills of tonality. The 7 skills of tonality is a holistic approach, a simplified, comprehensive framework for mastering your voice. It's going to allow you to have the most authentic, commanding, charismatic, and beautiful tone that you have full control over, that is spontaneous and relevant without thinking too hard, without becoming a professional opera singer, without getting a degree in vocal science or vocal pedagogy, without being a singer at all. So, what is tonality? Tonality is the quality of sound in your voice, how clean, rich, and resonant it feels and sounds to others. There are 2 primary components to the voice. There is the vibrator, and then there's the resonator. The vibrator is your vocal folds. That's the pedagogically correct term for what we commonly call the vocal cords, and the resonator is the vocal tract. So tonality is how your voice shapes and colors sound. It's the result of how cleanly your vocal folds create vibrations and how your vocal tract, that resonator, filters and enhances those sounds, whether it is amplifying them and bringing them out, bringing out more colors, bringing out more brilliance, or deliberately muting them and leaving them out. So your vocal tract doesn't create sound. It's just shaping what's already there. Think about this like a sculptor bringing out a masterpiece from a block of stone. So one of the reasons that people don't have, by default, an optimal, attractive, authentic, charismatic tonality is because their vocal tract shifts and moves with every change in pitch. Pitch is high or low, or right smack dab in the middle, where your voice naturally lies. One thing that we want to do in order to maintain this optimally attractive tone is we want to make sure that every sound that you are making, for the most part, sounds as if it belongs, that they all belong to the same font class. That's how I like to think about it. Picture font that we're looking at on a screen, or if you're old school, in a book, on a page. If we see a bunch of letters in one font and then we see a letter in a completely different font or a word in a completely different font, it draws our attention to it, but it just doesn't look that attractive. It draws attention to it in the wrong way. And so that is the first thing that we want to do when we are training for an optimally attractive tonality. We want to make sure that we have balanced resonance. So the 7 skills of tonality are resonance, articulation, imagination, mindset, intention, subtext, and stakes. So we start with resonance. There are 2 main types of resonance. There's chest resonance. That's a thicker, fatter, brassier sound. And then there's head voice. That's a lighter, flutier sound. Now, I did just change my pitch there, so let me give you an example. I can be talking like this, and this is going to be me speaking at this pitch in primarily chest voice. But then I can speak at this pitch in mostly head voice. And here in the head voice, it's softer, it's less loud, but also there is that brassy quality is gone. We don't want to speak entirely in chest voice, and we don't want to speak entirely in head voice. I liken this to, I'm a lifetime natural weightlifter, but I love the analogy of hormones here. We oftentimes will think testosterone good. I want to have maxed out testosterone and minimal estrogen, where testosterone would be chest voice, which makes a lot of sense because chest voice is what we associate with a masculine sound, and estrogen would be head voice, the feminine sound. Anybody who has ever been on the journey of optimizing their hormones will tell you you have to have the correct ratio of both testosterone and estrogen. If you have maxed out testosterone and no estrogen, you are going to be having a bad time. If you have maxed out estrogen and no testosterone, you are also going to be having a bad time. So we have to have both. So what that means in the voice is that we want the correct balance of both head and chest voice. One of the first things that we seek to do in any sort of tonality training workshop or speak boldly method experience is finding your ideal resonating balance. What this allows for is for you to find your authentic range and your natural pitch of speaking, and then be able to imbue it with all of the colors that you would like that are appropriate for the moment. So that means that you can have depth without shoving your voice way down out of its authentic range. It's going to eliminate, by default, vocal fry, which is the aural equivalent of apathy and timidity. Because if you are speaking with optimized resonance, you simply can't be on vocal fry. Mastering your resonance allows for you to have, for men, that deeper, more commanding voice without sounding like you are trying too hard. For women, it allows for you to have a feminine yet strong tone. And no matter who you are, it allows for you to be heard even in loud situations without losing your voice. Now let's move on to the second skill, articulation. In the 7 skills of tonality, there are 2 types of articulation. There is literal articulation, which is the muscle memory, the coordination by which we make the sounds that form words. And then there is the figurative articulation, which is how succinctly we communicate the point that we are trying to make. In figurative articulation, we also look at the mechanics of breaking out of monotone. This would include pacing, pausing, emphasizing specific words, specific syllables, sentences, and how to vary them in relation to one another to get attention faster and hold it longer, and to drive points home with maximum relevancy and impact. When you have sufficiently leveled up in those first 2 skills of the 7 skills of tonality, resonance, and articulation, then you will be sounding hot and smart. So if you are ever using a voice note, or if you are ever introducing yourself to somebody or speaking on the phone, you are going to be making a great first impression, one that evokes confidence and competence, ultimately amplifying your halo effect at the speed of sound. The third of the 7 skills of tonality is imagination. Imagination is critical to using your voice optimally, because unlike an instrument like a piano or a trumpet, we can't just press a button and reliably get the same sound every single time. Using the voice is a kinesthetic experience that relies on proprioceptive cues, essentially feedback from our senses, to be consistent in its sound. So this demands that you have heightened awareness in terms of what is happening in your body, what you are feeling, what you are experiencing, what you are hearing as you use your voice and you respond to outside input. But it also requires that you stretch your imagination and let it run free so that you can describe to yourself what those experiences, what those sensations are, so that you can reliably and repeatedly make the sounds that you are wanting to make. This is critically important for you to have agency in use of your own voice, because what I experience and how I describe the sensation of chest voice, the sensation of head voice, the sensation of connecting to my breath support, we might get the same end result, a similar sound, but it might feel and seem, as I would describe it to myself, totally different than how you would describe it to yourself. That doesn't make mine any better or yours any better than one another's. It's a powerfully unique experience, and you have to be able to tap into this in order to have total control over your voice. The fourth skill of the 7 skills of tonality is mindset. Mindset is most simply described as the transcription of your self-talk. What is going through your head in any given situation? This matters tremendously for the use of your voice, for having optimal tonality, because if you are telling yourself that you don't have the right to speak up, that nobody wants to hear what you have to say, that you are not the main character, so to speak, in your own life, no matter how optimized your resonance is, no matter how crisp your articulation, no matter how precise your figurative articulation is, no matter how clear your imagination is on the sounds that you are making and what you are experiencing, there's going to be an element of shakiness, of timidity, ultimately of falseness that appears in your sound. And that is going to throw up red flags in the ears of your listeners. So it's critical for optimal tonality that we train our mindset to be positive. This doesn't mean delusional. It just means that we are making sure that our mindset, what we are telling ourselves, strengthens us and allows for us to go and get what we want without changing the facts of reality, at least as much of reality as any of us is able to truly perceive. The fifth skill of the 7 skills of tonality is intention. Now, like articulation, there are 2 types of intention: micro, the specific action that you want a listener or listeners to take after engaging with you, and the macro, which is that you want whoever you are speaking with to win more than you want to be validated. Similarly to mindset, if our macro intention is not correctly aligned, it's also going to throw up red flags in the ears of our listeners. Everything else can be optimized. But if we are seeking validation more than we are seeking to serve whenever we are communicating, there's always going to be an element of distrust present in the ears and the minds and the hearts and the souls of your listeners. You can think about that macro intention as either being of self or being of service. You can't be both. The 6th skill of the 7 skills of tonality is subtext. You can think about subtext as what we are implying with our tone of voice, with our tonality. For example, you can say, "Hey, Michael, what would be if you were to keep on speaking after those words, what would you say? Hey, Michael, please, let's not talk today. I'm just not feeling it, man. Hey, Michael, I'm feeling really down." A variation, same text. "Hey, Michael, what might somebody say after that? How are you doing? I love that outfit. Wow, you look so tan." I mean, at least I could only hope that's what they're going to say. Perpetually trying to become more tan. Another variation. "Hey, Michael. Hey, Michael, you sly dog. I saw you over there." Or, "Hey, Michael, well, it sounds like there's about to be a question there. Can I ask you a question?" Etc. and so forth. We can use subtext to clearly establish, again, without changing the text, without saying something explicitly in the text, how we feel about the subject that we are speaking about, how we feel about the person that we are speaking to, how we want them to feel about the subject that we are speaking about, or about us. And this leads us into the 7th skill of tonality, the stakes. With stakes, we are making sure that we are clearly communicating what is at stake. If I don't get you to take the specific action as set forth in our micro intention at the end of our communication, if that specific action doesn't happen, well, then maybe my coffee is cold. Okay, that's not really going to compel, that's not really going to bring much energy into our sound. That's not going to inspire a convicted tone. If we go up several levels, then the stakes might be life or death. But it doesn't end there. For the sake of drama and for the sake of exploration of what's possible, we want to go, say, in the lab all the way, push the very limit, maybe go past the limits, and then dial things back to find an even center. Think Goldilocks. Beyond life or death, there is another level of stakes, and it just doesn't get any higher for the human being. And that would be suspend your disbelief if you are of a particular faith or if you are an atheist or don't believe in the afterlife. You nevertheless understand these concepts. The highest level of stakes would be eternal damnation or salvation. If this specific action as set forth by my micro intention isn't taken, you, me, everyone that we love and care about doesn't just die or doesn't get to live, but goes to hell or goes to heaven forever. That's the highest level of stakes. And so in exploring that, that is one of the most powerful ways to actually uncover a truly convicted tone, because it forces us to look at what our deepest convictions are. And one of the great things about the 7 skills of tonality is that they are totally reflexive. Each one of them informs the other. So as we are looking, for example, at the stakes, what we are so convicted in, or discovering what we are actually not as convicted in as we thought, we are going to draw from figurative articulation. We're going to figure out what our point is. We're going to strip it down to its essence. We can then draw that to the macro intention. Why is it important that we serve others with this message? How does delivering this message, how does communicating in this way, how is that an act of service rather than an act of selfishness? What then is the mindset What do we have to be telling ourselves? What is the story that we have to have running in our brain around communicating this message in any given scenario in order for us to be maximally effective, in order for us to save you, me, everyone that we love from eternal damnation or eternal salvation, or grant them eternal salvation? You see where we're going. So training your tonality is much more than a simple series of vocal exercises or understanding, finding, and unleashing for the first time for many people. This is my chest voice. This is my head voice. So that's your quick primer on the definition of tonality and the application of the 7 skills of tonality. For more resources, you can go to the 7skillsoftonality.com or wherever you are listening to this, be it on YouTube or your favorite podcast application. Go into the show notes and click the links below, and you will see resources that will help you to start learning and applying these 7 skills today. And if you want to come and work with me one-on-one, you can do so in a tonality training workshop session. It's a single session that allows for us to go deep on any or all of these skills and start the journey of finding and unleashing your voice so that you can go forth and speak boldly.